during your Easter sermon, you said these are dark days. In times like these, we Palestinians look at the cross and identify with the cross, and we see Jesus identifying with us. And then you challenged the church to say we must act, mobilize, pressure, lobby, and hold powers and leaders accountable. As people of the resurrection, we must unsettle the empire. Today, the land of the resurrection calls to you to act in hope and love. Together, we are committed to ending this genocide. Together, we are committed to work for truth and justice. We know we will prevail because Come, Christ is risen. So on that note, we welcome you also. Thank you, and to look forward to hearing also your testimony. Thanks.
Thank you, Rian, and good to see you again, even from through a small screen, and nice to meet you all. And I really look forward to being in South Africa in less than 2 weeks. So excited about this. In my short time, I would like just to share with you something that I've been reflecting on in the last few days, namely that related to a comparison between thinking of the Kairos South Africa document in its relationship with all that is happening in Palestine. I'm writing now a book, and in it there is a chapter on the church's responses to the war on Gaza, to the genocide on Gaza. And I'm talking about the global church in general. And these responses varied a lot from those who completely called for this genocide, supported it, even called for Israel to use nuclear weapons against Gaza. You think I'm joking, but there are Christian leaders who actually use that language. There are Christian leaders who said, just finish it up, clean it up, all these kind of languages. And there are Christians who compared Gaza with the war against the Amalek in the Bible. And we know what the Bible says about the fate of the Amalekites, that they should be all wiped away. And even though it's very common to focus on, we might tend to focus on these, what we consider radical voices, but please remember they are not as if fringe voices, because they represent a big size of the church, especially in North America. There are other voices that tend to be more progressive, that tried to justify this war using arguments like Israel's right to exercise self-defense, using arguments like the just war theory, and that Israel has a covenant with God and that they are entitled for this land. And so they say Israel's God-given right to defend itself justifies this war. And we saw this among many church leaders, theologians, but also among the many church statements that came to the surface after and during the war, especially in the first month or so. All have something in common, many things in common. All condemn Hamas with the strongest language for killing civilians. All support Israel's right to for self-defense. And then all realize that sad things are happening to the Palestinians. It's unfortunate. And so they hope Israel is more careful in its war. And it's interesting because I've been waiting. It's been more than 6 months now. And I've been waiting for all those who called it a self-defense war. I've been waiting for all those who said, yeah, we think Israel will be careful. Now that the number, the conservative estimates puts it at 40,000. That's the conservative estimate. And that now that the whole world has witnessed people literally dying from hunger and starvation, will these leaders realize that this is not a self-defense, that this is a vengeance campaign, and that their rhetoric of dehumanizing Palestinians actually contributed to this? And then there are a lot of churches who prayed for peace, called for peace, appealed for humanitarian aid, for justice, called for a ceasefire, sometimes conditional, sometimes unconditional, and they continue to pray for peace. And I'm grateful for all these voices. Yet I wonder, when there is a genocide happening month after month after month after month after month after month, when will we realize that praying for peace is not enough? When will realize that good intentions and the language of both sides deserve our prayers and so on is not enough? When will we begin to call out war crimes, call for accountability, take stronger positions? When will we begin to hold those who commit war crimes accountable to the international law? The church hasn't been using this language. And I think with our good intentions, seeking peace, Israel, not just with total disregard, Israel feels so immune, and they continue this. And we see this on the political realm, we see it on the church realm. On the political realm, we look at someone like Joe Biden, who always says we're concerned about the humanitarian lives of the Palestinians. We call on Israel to be more careful. He sometimes appears to be using strong language, and the next day he signs on the deal that sends Israel the weapons in which they commit this genocide. And so this is what's happening in politics. We see the political leaders who justified this genocide, called it self-defense, came to aid Israel. Now they say they're concerned. And that's why I said, no, you have blood on your hands. And as I said, similarly, we see it on church leaders who said this is self-defense. And we say, will you speak up now? We told you in November, this is a war of genocide. You didn't listen. We told you in December, you didn't listen. And of course, now they will show up with their charity. So I've been looking at these church responses and studying the Kairos South Africa response. I think this is a critical moment in our church history as Christianity, in which we need to look at one another and learn from the past. And in another Kairos moment, I looked and saw the courage to call out state theology and church theology. And in Palestine, I see both. I see state theology, the theology that has been used to justify colonialism, calling it Israel's land. A theology that used religious language and religious text to basically say that any Jewish person around the world can call Palestine their home and immigrate and have more rights than the Palestinians. And the world accepted that. A theology in which they convinced, or they forced 7 billion people around the world to simply accept that because Judaism has spiritual connection to the land, and that means any Jewish person around the world is entitled to our land politically, and translated that into political rights. Palestine today is the only context in the world in which colonialism is still justified using the Bible. In the past, it was slavery, it was apartheid, and now it is our context. So we have the state theology that demonized Palestinians, called for our killing. We have state theology. But we also have church theology. And in Palestine, church theology is the church that promotes that narrative, that this is a self-defense war, that puts all the blame on the Palestinians. Even, they use the human shields and other things as if it's okay to kill, to bomb a school and kill all the children if someone is hiding in it that Israel wants to kill. And they blame Hamas. It's okay to block all aid and food on Gaza. It's Hamas's fault. They're using Palestinians and human shields and kill them through starvation. So we have the church that promoted that theology. It's the language, it's the narrative. And we have also church theology that continues to preach to us Palestinians about peace, about reconciliation, about the dual narrative, while failing to call things out, while failing to name things by their name. This is a genocide. This is ethnic cleansing. We've been living under apartheid. Enough is enough. And then there is the Kairos prophetic theology, a theology that's usually considered on the margin, radical, and after the events are done, they look back at it and celebrate it. And I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm saying, how even church leaders in South Africa were called terrorists and so on. And then later people celebrating them. The same way Martin Luther King in the United States was called a communist, a terrorist, and later people celebrate. This is the time. And when I said in Christmas, Gaza is the moral compass of our world, I meant it. Gaza has divided us. And to conclude with those words that, you know, we need to know where people stand right now, and history will judge. Rian, you quoted from my Easter sermon, from my words about the cross, and the cross shows us where Jesus stood. He was the victim of the violence of empire aided by a religious ideology. This is what crucified Jesus, an empire aided by a religious ideology. And so I know where Jesus stands. And today we need you to call out the church worldwide. Where do you stand? Where were you when Gaza was going through a genocide? Thank you.